Mortal Kombat characters are always evolving and changing, with their personality, storylines, but most importantly for today, their designs. And with the hundreds of designs these characters have had over the last few decades, a lot of choices have been made, some of which have not worked well at all. Hello my fellow oddities, and welcome to the worst Mortal Kombat design choices. This is not concerning the worst overall designs for a singular character, but instead choices that have been made across multiple designs, sometimes for multiple different characters. I know that might be confusing, so let me give you an example. Bald. A design choice that almost never works, especially for pre-established characters, is making them bald. Of course, we all know the controversy of the Mortal Kombat 2 movie making Jade bald, which looks terrible, but that's not it. Another example that exists is Kung Lao, who was first bald in MKX in his Revenant form, and for some reason MK11 expanded that to a bunch of his designs, including ones that don't even make sense like his MK3 classic outfit. There was also Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat Legacy Season 2, which was so close to being a peak version of the character. I mean, he had a great snakeskin outfit, which they should really bring back. It was a great idea. And most importantly, it was Cary Tagawa playing him, but they just had to ruin it by taking the man's glorious hair. Should be a crime. And I know it didn't make him completely bald, but Sub-Zero's Deception alternate is worth a mention, since it gives him that Goro ponytail hairstyle that more or less has the same effect, if not worse. So that's kind of what I'm talking about with the design choices. Let's get into 9 more now. Next up, I got one that's character specific, and that's for Ermac, the first rumored character in MK history. Here, I want to talk about the recent trend of Ermac having decayed skin, starting with MK Legacy Season 2, where he looked like a straight up orc from Lord of the Rings. Then it was toned down in MKX before being toned back up for Mortal Kombat 1. I just don't understand the appeal. I get that he is sort of a husk for all these souls to reside in, but he doesn't have to look like a literal mummy under the wraps. And the wrapped up look works best when it completely covers his face anyways, like in Deception and MK9. So if he had the ugly skin but it was covered up, I wouldn't have an issue. Obviously you can't see it, but showing so much of his gross face just doesn't work at all for me. Especially in Mortal Kombat 1. Remember when he was first revealed and he straight up didn't have a mask? Thank God that wasn't official. But this version of him doesn't even go for the wrapped up look from Deception, MK9, and MKX. It's just a normal-ish ninja outfit. So why give him this ugly pale white skin? But moving on, let's talk about the Cyber Ninjas, specifically when they look like Transformers. No, do not make a joke in the comments about them being gender swapped. It is not funny. But what I mean is that these guys in more recent games look like Michael Bay Transformers. Too over-designed, too mechanical, just a mess in my opinion. Originally, the Cyber Ninjas were a fusion dance of the Predator and RoboCop, which made for the most perfect, badass mix imaginable. They already had it down, but they started to take it further in Deadly Alliance with Cyrax, which still looked great, arguably even better, but then they kept going with Sector and Armageddon, and then you get to MK9 and we're looking at completely different designs. Much worse ones in my opinion, because the Cyber Ninjas are already mistaken for robots all the time. So now you're going to make them look even more robotic? At least the original designs had little details that showed you they're not all metal and gears. The part I hate the most are the heads on these new cyborgs. All life is stripped away in favor of generic robot heads, and they get even worse in MKX and 11. In X, the colors are super desaturated and all their bodies are the same, and in 11, they're super bulky for some reason. MK1 obviously goes for something completely different, so I don't really count it, but I really hope in the future we just go back to the OGs, with some modern touches of course. Speaking of MK1 though, this next one is not the most offensive, but it's just super irritating to me. The tattoos. A bunch of characters in MK1, especially counting the Invasions mode slop outfits, have unnecessary and ugly tattoos. In fact, I don't think a single MK1 character doesn't have a design with weird tattoos or markings. Look at this katana design. Look at it. Oh! Listen, I don't want to come across as a man who hates tatted women because I don't mind even a little bit, but this just looks like a toddler went to town on their living room wall. And for katana, even worse. Maybe maybe Mileena would rock some tats, but Katana, no. And if you don't want to count the invasions mode stuff, fine, there's still plenty of examples just in the default designs. Liu Kang, Kenshi, Scorpion, Reptile, hell, even Baraka is tatted up. So you're telling me they got tattoo shops in the Tarkat village? Or maybe that's how he got it. Either way, just a weird aesthetic they were going for here, and I don't even hate tattoos. Hell, I want to get one someday. But this was just not it for a bunch of these characters. Next up, y'all probably saw this one coming a mile away, Bipedal Motaro. Need I say more? I mean, if he's gonna have 2 legs, at least make him a Minotaur then. But no, he's just a centaur. With 2 legs. So not a centaur. What else does he have? A laser tail. I mean, that's cool, but that's it? That was enough that they went, yeah, we can sacrifice this character's entire purpose so he can be put in the game? And this one decision has pretty much killed Motaro as a character, literally in MK9. If they had just left him out in Armageddon, I reckon they would have tried something to bring him back. Maybe not as a playable character, but he should still work as an NPC. But they didn't even try after this, at least until MK1 with him as a cameo. Moving on, another pretty popular pick here, Lizard Reptile. Of course from MK 1995, Deadly Alliance, and MK 2021. 1995, you can get away with it even though the CGI is horrible and like, what even is this design? Because he does eventually get a humanoid form later. But Deadly Alliance in 2021? What were we doing? While yes, I do prefer Reptile with reptilian skin as opposed to human skin, at the end of the day, the dude is a sneaky assassin, ninja, whatever you want to call him. But that's gonna be a little difficult when you look like this. Drooling, twitching all over the place. It's just such an extreme look that isn't subtle enough to give that mysterious vibe that really all the ninjas should have. Especially with that tail, particularly the long spiny one from Deadly Alliance. It'll just be wiggling around, bumping into stuff. Not practical for a ninja at all. But at least in the game he wears clothes. Mortal Kombat 2021. What's the deal with this? What sucks is if this movie actually had a good Reptile design, that one scene with him was pretty badass since it featured him sneaking around, using his acid, his tongue, all the most iconic aspects of him as a character. But then he just looks like a damn CGI Komodo dragon and you can't take him serious. Moving on, this one's gonna make certain people mad, but screw it, they deserve to be. Whitewashed, Jade, and Tanya. Now I can already hear the complaint, but Jade and Tanya aren't black, they're Adenian. Do y'all understand how stupid that sounds? Truly, listen to yourself. That's like saying Jax is not black, he's from Earth. Obviously we know they're Adenian, but clearly Adenians are based on humans and share a lot of human features. So just like there are black and Asian humans means that Adenians can also be what we would understand as black and Asian. But now that that's out of the way, Jade and Tanya have been whitewashed multiple times throughout the franchise. Jade was whitewashed first in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where they made her Asian, and then again in Mortal Kombat Mobile. And by the way, whitewash doesn't always mean making them literally white. Changing a character to be a lighter skinned Asian is still whitewashing because you're lightening their skin tone. And Tanya was whitewashed in the story mode for MKX, though eventually made the correct skin tone in the base game, thankfully. Both of these characters are black. That is a fact. Official MK accounts have posted them on Black History Month. That is how you know it's a fact. And whitewashing in any circumstance I can think of is never okay. I also think it just takes away from some of their individuality. Jade already has very little to do compared to Mileena and Katana, so her being the first black lady of MK is important to her identity. And changing that is just weird and makes her the green one of the group. Same with Tanya, obviously to a slightly lesser extent because she wasn't the first, but in her original appearance she was clearly black, and had always been that way until MKX's story mode. Again, fact. But moving on before my comment section turns into a bloody battlefield, this next one's another pretty inoffensive one, but so annoying to me, the belts. This is probably the most general design choice on this list, because it's appeared across so many games, mostly in more recent titles, the worst being MKX. Look at Scorpion's base design. Look at the abundance of belts. Why? Why does he need that many? He's not carrying that much, his pants don't look that loose. Are you seriously telling me Scorpion just woke up that morning and was like, you know what, I'm gonna put on 26 belts today. Why not? But it's not just him, it's a ton of other characters like Sub-Zero, Kenshi, Kano, Sonya, Aaron Black. It gets pretty comedic sometimes just how many belts these characters are putting on. And you know what? It wouldn't be terrible if a lot of the times they weren't so noticeable. What I mean is, a lot of other games with this problem do a better job hiding these belts because either A, the rest of the design has such bright colors that they distract from the belts, or B, the belts are the same color as the rest of the outfit. But in MKX, the belts are usually a distinct brown color, and because the MKX designs are so desaturated, they can often stick out really badly and ruin the complexion of the costume. MK11 and MK1 both do have this issue to lesser extents, as well as some older 3D era games, but none of them are nearly as bad as MKX. Alright, second to last one, let me know if you want a part 2 in the comments, and this one's personal. Green Noob Saibot from MK1. Noob in black, match made in heaven. Noob in purple, beautiful. Noob and blue even, amazing. But Noob and green, that just don't look right. And I say that as an absolute green stan. And I get it, he's from the Chaos Realm now, but I don't care, it looks ugly. He's supposed to be dark, literally shadowy. Green is not really a color that complements that very well. It feels like another example of MK1 just changing things, ruining them, for the sake of being different. Hell, if it wasn't plastered throughout the base design and was just the effect for his powers, I wouldn't be so salty. But they just had to shove it down our throat that, hey, he's green now. You, yes you want the character that started out as a literal silhouette to be green, right? But let's move on now to the last one, the one you've probably all been waiting for. You saw it in the thumbnail. It concerns Mileena, which means if the comments aren't already a war zone, bring a shield, or maybe a tank. But I think Mileena having lips is absolutely horrible and misses the entire point of her character. Mileena is ashamed of her large Tarkatan mouth and features, so she tries to hide them. That's what the mask is. That's what the point of the mask is. And it's also the reason she dresses so revealingly, to distract from the features that she thinks will keep people from loving her. Oh boy, is she wrong. But this part of her character hasn't been explored nearly enough, which is why you get some folks thinking it's okay to try and make her more traditionally attractive by giving her lips to cover up the teeth. MKX is the least bad offender of this, since at least you can see her teeth through her cheeks. Or lack thereof, I guess. But still, they were either trying to make her hotter and more appealing by giving her human lips, or they just really wanted to have that makeout scene with Devora. NRS, you are very weird. But it gets worse with her live-action adaptations in Legacy and Mortal Kombat 2021. Annihilation escapes this because she doesn't show her teeth in that movie. Probably for the best. But in both MK 2021 and Legacy, her face is pretty much just completely normal. She just has Joker scars.
You wanna know how I got these scars?
I'm a half-Tarkatan clone of my twin sister who I was created in a lab to replace. And yes, for both adaptations, she can unhinge her jaw to reveal her more game-accurate teeth, but if the teeth aren't always there and she can hide them, that still defeats the point of her insecurities. But I'ma call it that for today. There are probably more that I can talk about, so if you want a part 2, let me know in the comments, and also let me know down there what your worst Mortal Kombat design choices are. Subscribe and leave a like if you want, and Bass wraps on this one, my fellow oddities. I'll see you next time.